Välkomna till Svenska kyrkans monter på Bokmässan och Se Människan-scenen. Vi ska nu få lyssna till ett samtal. Ett av alla de samtal som vi har här under 4 dagar. Nu är det Meg Wolitzer som är gäst här och ska prata med Kristin Molander. Och det här samtalet kommer att ske på engelska. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meg, welcome. So nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
We haven't had the possibility to meet before, and I've been really longing for this. We are going to talk about your book, The Wife, in English, Hustrun, in Swedish. And I read somewhere that you said that this is a book about male power and female complexity.
Oh, I think it was actually, not to split hairs, female complicity with that power.
Yes.
Yeah, the ways in which women are sort of implicated with that power. Yeah.
Can you say something more about that? Because I thought that was really... It would be easy if we look at the title here, to focus on the power of the man. But I would like to focus on the complicity of the female instead.
Well, I realized, as a daughter of a mother who is also a writer, when I was growing up, I saw a lot of men writers and women writers in the 1970s, and I really saw the way in which there was a kind of excitement around the men, but there was a power to some of their wives. Like it was a way to sort of get to them, or they held the secret power. If you look at someone like Vera Nabokov, Vladimir Nabokov's wife, she sort of did everything, was really involved. There was a real power in being quietly part of things. Mm. So I wanted to really write about that.
Mm. This is a story about Joan and Joseph. She is a young student. He is her teacher.
Yeah.
And she falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her, perhaps.
Yeah.
Depends on how you see it. They start a relationship, and they eventually get married and have their family. I wouldn't talk so much about the story because this is a great book, and I wouldn't reveal the story in itself. But I was fascinated by Joan, this young woman in the 1950s. And somewhere she says, when she meets this older man, she says, he would complete me. He would give me all that I needed to be complete-ish. That's my translation.
Yes, some women feel that way. I mean, right away, the question of power, I think, comes up in this book because they do have an affair, and she's a student, and he's her professor, and right away, the power is out of balance, right? You want to please your professor. He has all the power. I think the book is sort of about power shifts a little bit over time. I mean, I wanted to follow a marriage. Obviously, I wasn't around in the 1950s when the book begins, but I'm fascinated by that time. At least in the US, it was so sexist. There was such a great imbalance. But Joan doesn't want to just sort of shrink back into nothing. She wants something for herself. And as you said, we don't want to reveal, well, there's a big reveal, but we don't want to give it away. But she wants something for herself. She's not going to become a sort of shrinking violet. So she finds a way to have a marriage that works. There was a line, I think it was by Robert Louis Stevenson, who said, marriage is a long conversation. And I love that line because the book is sort of a long conversation.
But she also says there is a meeting with her mother, who is really not approving this relationship at all. And I found it, when she says that, she realized that I need to, she's already married then with him, and she says to herself, I need to create my man. I need to create a man that is acceptable to my parents.
Yeah. There's a lot of that, because when you leave one family and join another, you are leaving one culture and creating another. And I mean, I remember that very much in my own life, the shock of leaving all of the specific things that your family did. Like, even in another novel of mine, The Position, I wrote a little bit about how families have a drawer in the kitchen where they keep the keys and the things. And when you have your own family and your own marriage, you will have something different. And the idea of doing that is sometimes rejecting your family, especially in her case. She's married this guy who her family completely doesn't approve of. She comes from a very waspy, wealthy family. He's Jewish, which they don't like, and he's married. Oh, I forgot that. That actually is a big part of it. He's married with a child, and she breaks up their marriage in a sort of big, violent way. And she leaves her life and enters this new world. And I think it's as shocking to her as it is to her parents.
You said somewhere that, I think it's you, that the woman that Joan, she takes the power that she can get. She uses him in a way to get to the power.
Well, there is a way that over time, sometimes men have given women the power that they don't want.
Okay.
Like, if you have in a family, at least there are ways in which sometimes, I hate speaking broadly and generally and painting things in gender ways, but so everything I say, imagine a little asterisk for the exceptions, but sometimes domestic power, women running, knowing their children's teachers' names, things in taking that kind of power that they think men might not want. But beyond that, well, I would say this, because we haven't said it, he becomes a big famous writer. He becomes a kind of combination of Norman Mailer, Saul Bellow, with a little John Updike thrown in, all of the big mid-century American male writers. But his secret weapon is his wife. And she has a tremendous amount of power. And I will say this, when I was young and I went with my mother to a very famous writers' conference in Vermont, I saw the way the men, there was a hierarchy, and the men were really at the top, and women were kind of congregating around them as if to admire them, but also I wondered, was it a way to get some of the power too? Power is a weird, slippery thing. Like, what do you want power? We're all mortal. I wonder about it. I think about it a lot, and I do tend to write about it.
Thank you. We'll see how... You have said that this story, you write it it starts in the 50s,
Yeah.
and they have children, and you can follow them to now, and you have said that this story would not be possible to place or put today in our time.
It would be different. The opening takes place in the present day when Joe is about to win a big prize, one down from the Nobel Prize. Since I'm in Sweden, I went to Finland many years ago. They invited me for the 500th anniversary of the Finnish book, and I created a prize called the Helsinki Prize, which is so, like, imagine the Nobel Prize, but shabby-ish, but not quite. A little bit lower, less of a big prize. It's a completely made-up prize. I'm sort of lampooning prize culture a little bit, but I think you're right that it's different now, but how different is it, I think, for women? That's a question that we all ask. I've written about this. No, I don't want to get off your... Is it okay to go off on a side trip? I've written about this a bit in the New York Times Book Review. I wrote an essay called The Second Shelf, and I talked about what it's like for writers. And I've had experiences where you go to a party and you meet someone who says, a man, in this case, said, what do you write about? And I said, I write novels. They're about relationships, marriage, sexual desire, family. And he said, oh, you should meet my wife, talk to her. And I thought, what is fiction about? I mean, all of you here today are fiction readers at the festival, read books, love books. For me, I want to learn about other lives. And the idea that books by women, or more to the point, even about the interior lives of women are, quote, women's fiction, offends me.
Yes.
So you too.
Yes. I can recommend your illustrations. So when you write about the Finland and the Finnish sense of life, it's very amusing for a Swede. So
I'd be curious. I don't. Yeah.
It's very like you find it in a way, and you describe it wonderfully. When I read, when I have marriages in church, when I marry people in church, we read from the Bible, from Genesis, where it says that God created humankind, and then God split the humankind to two parts, and therefore the human will always long to go back to the wholeness, the completeness in a way. Because I wondered when I read, there are many reasons why she doesn't leave him, but why is it like a longing for wholeness, completeness, as I find some under the lines here?
A light bulb is going off over my head now, thinking, when I give further lectures, I'm going to casually mention that quote from Genesis. It's a great quote in this context. It really is useful. Yes, I think that's right. I haven't really thought of it that way, but I think you're right, that in a marriage, there is a desire. You know, one thing that I love about marriage, I've been married for a really long time, and there's that sense of going out into the world almost like a wonderfully, powerfully equipped machine. The things that I can't do, he can. The things that he can't do, I do. There are a lot of things we do that we love that are the same. In my case, I'm married to a writer as well, and I love talking about books with him. And he writes nonfiction, and I write fiction. And I think sometimes that's a way of approaching the world. He writes about science often, and I see his understanding of the exterior world, and I hope my understanding of the interior world. But I think for Joan, that's really true too, because here's the thing, I should say this, Joan starts off as his writing student, and she's a wonderful writer when she's young. But the opportunities are not so great for her. There's this sense of, people like the guy at the party, women's fiction. She wants something more for herself, and he becomes this big famous writer. Together they go off into the world, and they see the world, and they experience the world, and he's protected by her, and she is uplifted by him, even though she's in a big rage. It's the book is one of the only ones that I've written in first person, and she's in a kind of funny rage throughout a lot of it that I let myself do.
It's interesting because you have been married for a long time, and again, when I'm in church with marrying couples, we also say that you are one and one. Now you're going to be you were two. Now you're going to be one, and I feel that saying that today in our individualistic society, it's almost a threat in a way.
Oh, to lose your identity?
Yes.
Yes.
So the lifelong relation, like this, because it's a long relation you write about, the lifelong relation with two people, is it possible today? For you, it's possible, obviously.
Yes, I think there's not one good way to live. I actually think that. Like, I've been traveling quite a bit. I was at another book festival in France and traveling around, and then I was thinking as I travel, I love being away from home, and then I call, and it's all a different time there, and something domestic is going on, and I'm just in a hotel. but we're connected through memory, experience, all the things that I love about fiction. That sense of life, a sense of a life lived. I don't know that marriage can do everything. It can't. It certainly can't. And I think people who enter into it, if you're planning on entering into it, it can't do everything. But it does a lot. It's sort of like the women's movement, the notion back in the Helen Gurley Brown era of having it all. Did you have that expression in Sweden? The idea of...
Yes.
Yeah, so I think, and I've said this over time, that, and a lot of people have said this really, that maybe it's not about having it all, it's about having, you know, some of a lot of things. And maybe marriage is like that. It's like, oh, here I am in Sweden, it's a smorgasbord. You get a lot of things from it, but if you're not secure in yourself, what can you get?
Thank you. That was interesting. 'Cause you said, the quote you had, that marriage is a long conversation. I also read that marriage is a long conversation with one who's on your side.
Yes.
And if I look on Joe's and Joan's marriage, in a way they are on each other's side, but I'm not sure that they are like meeting each other eye to eye.
Well, I think when marriages break up, that's right. It's like suddenly you're on opposing teams. And you feel the sadness of how did that happen? But because all marriages are, I guess, a contract between each other that's even above and beyond the contract that a couple would make in your church. They have, it could be unspoken, it could be unconscious, but in that movie, Jerry Maguire, remember, "You complete me," the line, it was everybody, woo, loved that line. But there are other contracts, I think, in marriages. And in this case, Joan, over time, becomes less and less happy with the contract she made. And I think what pushes it over the edge is when Joe wins this prize, this sort of stand-in for the Nobel Prize, it's too much. It's too much attention for him. And she starts to think, what about me? What about me?
And he never asks. He doesn't. It's a hard scene in the book when they meet. I think that they have sex for the first time, and she asks a lot about him, and she, when he will ask her anything, he asks, "What do you think about my novel?"
Right.
He doesn't ask her about her life. He asked her what she thinks about him.
Well, I think we've all had experiences like that at dinner parties or somewhere. Either the person looking beyond you, or you can only hold their attention if you are talking about them. And I'm lampooning the idea of the big man here, the big great man, who is meant to be so interesting to everyone that he's not evil. He's just, the problem is the world supports this, has supported that and allowed that kind of thing, has allowed a certain kind of male narcissism over time. I think that's true.
And both you and me, we have boys, children, and I question myself, how can I raise my boys as men who are interested and question and inclusive, so to speak, in their lives?
I think the best way to do it, or at least the way I tried to do it, and I'm sure you did too, is to show them. It's not by sort of lecturing them about this, but just showing it in action. Like, oh, here's mom working again and being passionate about what she does. And if they see that as a real legitimate thing, they understand that. So, because that's right. Children are like the center of their parents' worlds when they're young. And they are incredible narcissists. People ask me, do your children read your book? I would say that for my children, having a mother or parents for writers is sometimes not they think it's like a strange job. And actually my son and I were walking in New York City once, and we went past a McDonald's and there was a sign in the window that said, "Now hiring." And he looked at me and he said, "Mom, you could do that.
Yes.
You could get a job."
A real job.
A real job. I think he was protective of me and wanted me to do something that was real. But over time, I think they really began to see that what I did, even though I didn't have to wear a power suit, and or even change out of my nightgown ever, was legitimate. And I think that for young men, seeing the legitimacy of women's independent lives is really important.
I have learned a lot from Joan and the life you have written for her. I think that the question of power in relations is a crucial one.
Yeah.
And power is not always what it first seems to be. So for me, I will take that with me after reading this. And our 20 minutes have now passed. I'm very grateful for being able to speak to you and for reading this book. I strongly recommend it. And I'm looking forward to, I would love to see a book by you called The Husband. It would be very interesting.
This one is funny. I don't know how funny that one would be. We'd have to see. I'd have to do some research.
Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.